Ain't no need to go no further, brother. Ain't no need to go no further, man. You might have gone and your has been. All you can tell is the fun you had. Ain't no need to go no further, brother. Ain't no need to go no further, brother. Ain't no need to go no further, man. Oh, that train, oh, that plane, oh, that hound, don't let it make a sound. I won't hear a doggone thing. I won't hear my own telephone ring. I don't want to hear a doggone sound till I get a woman's feet back on the ground. Oh, the river, don't let it flow. Oh, the wind, don't let it blow. I won't hear a doggone thing. I won't hear my own telephone ring. I don't want to hear a doggone sound till I get my woman's feet back on the ground. Oh, the sun, don't let it burn. Oh, the rain, don't let it turn. I won't hear a doggone clang. I won't hear my own telephone ring. I don't want to hear a doggone sound till I get my feet back on the ground. Oh, that plane. Oh, that train. Oh, everything.
All right. Well, this morning, may we feel with the heart of a blues man and see and observe with the eyes of a poet. And in so doing, may we know the way of God just a little bit better. Please stand, join in singing, I think, a blues-inspired community song. We'll see where it takes us. As we offer up our and we could have gone longer. All right, let us pray. This prayer is from the Iona community. It's not my own. God, help us to grow like a garden, like a song, like a tree, like a great tree, like one of those great old trees you meet sometimes and hug, wandering lost or enchanted in a deep, dark forest, in an empty field, a great old tree with roots that reach down to the heart, roots that reach down but break through the ground around the trunk and lift as if the earth can't contain the yearning, as if the earth shall erode and pass away, and all that shall be left in the end is spirit. A great old tree with arms that shelter and shade and house such love. A great old tree with breaks and wounds and scars, but dancing and clapping in its hands. Like a beautiful old woman at a summer wedding. A great old tree, still and centered, drawing on the living, warm core of God, though left stripped of everything. God, help us to grow like a garden, like a song, like a tree, like one of those great old trees you meet sometimes in a crowded forest, in an empty field. Amen. Please take a moment and greet those you're seated near. Well, a snowy and wintry welcome to all. It's good to see even this many out in the single-digit temperatures. If it gets a certain level of cold, it just stops being more cold, I find. Like, you know, I don't know what number that is, but we're getting close. If you are new, please sign the green book in the back. You wouldn't know it's green book unless you close it, but if you see signatures on there and numbers and emails, that's the green book. We would love to connect with you if you're here for the first time. And also for everyone, coffee hour, I'm not sure it's in a full hour, but it's across the breezeway after the worship service, and there's always tasty little morsels to be had over there as well. If you have children here today, you're welcome to have them in the service. You're also welcome to take them across the breezeway to Reed Hall, and there's wonderful folks over there to entertain, look after, and love your children. A few announcements. I'm hosting a book discussion. The MacArthur genius and Princeton professor Elaine Pagel's book, Why Religion? A Personal Story, and it's quite a story. This is a two-part deal. There's a pickup date, which is next Thursday at 9 a.m. or 7 p.m., and then you've got 3 weeks, I think, to read the book, and then February 7th at 9 a.m. or 7 p.m., there'll be about an hour-long discussion. So if you're interested, there's a sign-up on the back table. Elaine is a beautiful writer, heavyweight theologian, but also some of her academic books are bestsellers, which is rare. She's envied for that. Just a beautiful writer with quite a life story. So I welcome you to that, and hopefully it evokes some of our own stories. Another thing happening, laugh. Can I get a laugh? There we go. You are perfect. You are all invited to laugh with wellness coach Chelsea Greenbaum, February 2nd. Now, apparently this is a thing in India. It's actually laughter yoga. And a friend of mine was hearing that we were doing this. She said, oh yeah, in India, they will come to the market at like 5:30 a.m. There'll be a circle of usually women, not always, And they will just kind of do their laugh yoga, which is a little more kind of normal than when we do it, because I've been to one of these things with Chelsea Greenbaum. It's great, or we wouldn't be inviting her. But they kind of just do their laughter thing, and then they go to the market and shop for their vegetables. It's really fantastic. So there's all kinds of wellness. Just when you're laughing, you could feel it. I can see some of the skeptics out there like, what? But February 2nd, 4:30 at Gorton, there's a sign up on the back table there. If there's any fewer than 25 names on that sheet, at the end of the hour, I will come hunting for people to be involved. Don't laugh too much or I'll come to your door. Okay, Mountain Film, 25th, 26th, and 27th. I believe the 25th, Friday the 25th, is the feature night. 26th has shorts, and 27th I think is kind of a family, children's. That is an event that the community church is a proud co-sponsor of. So a hand of applause to the community church for doing that. Did I just applaud myself? No, but I'm proud of that we have Telluride Mountain Film here in Lake Forest. I've been to Telluride for the Mountain Film Festival, and I gotta tell you, it's just as good here, so come. And a big thank you to flowers from Leslie and Chris Fisher, the whole Fisher family, really. Back there, the handsome family in the back row there. Yep, thank you. And greeters today, Dave and Meg Gustafson. I think Kevin Gustafson was actually one of the greeters. Thank you, Kevin. And, a couple more things. Adventures in South Africa. Now, this is the first church I've been a part of, that kind of goes places like South Africa, or, hey, we're going to New Zealand. You want to come with us? Oh, what are you doing there? Oh, we're going to go have a good time. Well, this is sort of the same thing. If you're interested in that, don't talk to me. I'm not going. But talk to Tom. He's going. Talk to Michael Stevenson, and there's a sign up on the back table there. So if you just want to put your info down, they will contact you. And finally, a big thank you to Bill Bazinski, who is preaching today. Let's give him a pre-hand of applause. And then the All-Star Blues Band, who is right behind me. Yep. And that includes, when I say your name, just wave, Rob Solsky. Is he waving? Oh, there he is. Mike Landers. Yes, indeed. Bruce Williams with the, is that a scarf of lament?
I'm in mourning. Yes.
He's in mourning. Yeah. Eric Van Dyne, Marty Willis, and Chris Buck. Thank you all for being here. Yes. And then a few thoughts. I want to take a few moments in the service this morning to pay tribute to, homage to two great people, two giant spiritual guides. One a prophet, one a poet. First, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, born January 15th, 1929. MLK Day is always the third Monday in January. And I'm going to read a passage from one of his speeches, his final speech, the day before the 39-year-old MLK was assassinated in 1968. He said, "I left Atlanta this morning, and as we got started on the plane, the pilot said over the public address, 'We're sorry for the delay, but we have Dr. Martin Luther King on the plane, and to be sure that all the bags were checked, we did an extra set of hands and eyes, and to be sure everything was right, nothing wrong with the plane. We checked everything out. The plane was guarded at the airport, protected all night. And then King said, I got into Memphis. And some were talking about the threats that were out. What would happen to me from some of our sick white brothers? Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land. And I'm so happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the coming of the Lord. And then one of my favorite MLK quotes, a short one, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And poets, true poets, by their nature, by their purpose, are not silent about things that matter. Mary Oliver sure wasn't. Most of her poetry was about nature. Many say her poems were about God. Where nature and God are differentiated is for you to decide for yourself. For Mary, the difference was indistinguishable. Oliver passed on Friday, January 17th. She was 83. I selected the poem called Today from the 2012 collection of poems, 1,000 Mornings. Here's Today. Today, I'm flying low, and I'm not saying a word. I'm letting all the voodoos of ambition sleep. The world goes on as it must. The bees in the garden rumbling a little. The fish leaping, the gnats getting eaten, and so forth. But I'm taking the day off, quiet as a feather. I hardly move, though really I'm traveling a terrific distance. Stillness, one of the doors into the temple. Both King and Oliver were kind of talking about the same thing. All things, living within peace and joy and love and dignity and wholeness.
So many trains to ride. I got to find my baby. I won't be satisfied. There was a mean old farmer and a cruel engineer. There was a mean old farmer and a cruel engineer. Come and take it, my baby, and left me standing here. That's a true story.
The scripture to be read this morning comes from the book of Micah. I asked Bill Bazinski what scripture he'd like. He said, "I have no idea." and then he quoted a William Blake poem to me. I said, "I can do that as well." So we'll start with that. He said, "This is sort of the theme. Without contraries, no progression." William Blake. Maybe we'll make more sense of that after Bill speaks. And this passage from Micah, "In days to come, the mountain of God's house shall be set over all other mountains, lifted high above the hills. People shall come streaming to it. And many nations will come and say, 'Come, let us climb up onto the mountain of God, that he may teach us his ways, and we may walk in his paths.'" Bill?
A word first for my snowball lovers and all of you old-timers that make me ashamed of the complaining I did this morning about the cold. Toboggans, hats, boots, gloves. Winter likes to bundle and snow pants can't run. Slip, slide, sled head first. Let snowballs fly and blizzards burst. With snow head high, you could sled head first. Everybody say, "Winter's fine." Winter's fine. You could do much worse. And that's a true story, too. My grandfather and my father both carried guns. My father was a New York City policeman. And I would see his gun a lot, actually. We lived in a cramped little house in Queens. And I would see it on the way to the bathroom. It was a .32 caliber pistol. And it hung in a holster from the top of the closet in his bedroom. And my father was a fierce man. And he taught me in no uncertain terms never to touch that gun. And I was a good boy, obedient, a cop's son. And I wouldn't go near it. To tell you the truth, I feared that gun as much as I was fascinated by it. And I was always happy as a kid playing with my little toy guns. One day, however, when I got a little older, I thought to myself, maybe I might just touch that thing. And I came in, sleeping on the couch with my dad snoring, and his gun and his badge were on the kitchen table, so I just sort of slid over with one eye on Dad and one eye on the gun just to get a close-up view. And I leaned in and just noticed all the little details on this gun that I used to see hanging there. And it had these little notches on the trigger and this slight little engraving on the barrel. And the thing that impressed me was the worn wooden handle. And I remember just leaning in thinking, you know, I'm just going to put my thing, just touch it, see what it felt like. And just as I'm about to touch it, from right behind me, my grandfather sticks his big head out of the basement door and says, "Hey, idiot, get over here." Now, my grandfather was a criminal, a low-level mafioso. He's my mother's father. And he grew up on the mean streets of New York. And in fact, as a young man, he'd been locked up in a reform school prison. And he spent a couple of years there. When he got out, he hadn't been reformed. Selling fruits and vegetables around Long Island, my grandfather lived the life of a gambler, a drinker, thief, stealing, double dealing all over Manhattan. Of course, as a kid, I had no idea that Pops was a crook. I called him Pops or Papa. Everybody else called him Big Bill. He was 6.5 feet tall. He was a dark-skinned Sicilian man with curly hair, bad teeth, and he had breath that smelled like whiskey and tobacco. He scared the heck out of all the little kids in the neighborhood. And I was equally, like that gun, I was kind of equally afraid and fascinated by Pops. Anyway, he scared the heck out of me coming up behind me like that. Wham! And I turned, jumped away from the table and the gun, and he says, "Hey, you little SOB, get over here." I used to think SOB was a term of endearment. "Hey, you little SOB, get over here. I need your help with these boxes." Of course, I quickly followed Big Bill down this little stairwell in the basement. And as he was going down there, I remember, he's just sort of clumping. And, he's a big old guy, so he had to go down this thing. And as he's clumping, I remember this movie, Frankenstein Meets Abbott and Costello. And I started laughing out loud. But I wasn't laughing long. Because as soon as I got to the bottom of the basement, I turned left into the basement, I knew my life was over. You see, that basement was going to be my salvation. We were 5 people living in a 6-room house. You couldn't breathe without somebody hearing you, right? And as the oldest kid, actually sharing a bedroom with my little sister, Teresa Rose, who everybody assured me was just so cute and was really, well, she wasn't an SOB, she was just a B. That was Teresa. So I could do anything to get away from these people. And my father, who was really a good man, it gave me he was an angel in my life in so many ways. What was I saying again?
She was a bee.
She was a bee. Anyway, so I got downstairs and I discovered this basement, which my father, in an angelic fit, was going to, he sort of remodeled the whole place, and it was going to be my bedroom, right? A week from then, it was going to be my place, my little Shangri-La. I would be the Kubla Khan, little Joe on the Ponderosa. I was going to have it all, my own little crib there, if you will. And when I got down there, I saw all my grandfather's furniture from his apartment filling my basement. And I was stunned. I mean, it was like just the wind knocked out of me. And for about 5 minutes, I'm helping him move boxes and help him move things. I was like a robot. I didn't know what to even ask. Why, what's happening? And as I'm helping in this robotic sort of way, I'm moving a little bureau with my grandfather, and all of a sudden, his gun falls out. He's carrying a .38, which is bigger than my dad's. This is Dirty Harry style. You with me? And it pops out. I look at Pops in the eyes, and then I just look away real quick. He knows I saw it. But I just went on like he didn't, right? After we got done, he pulled out a little pocket knife to kind of, it was my first bribe, with him living there. He gave me a little pocket knife. And I just looked at it, and I said, no way. This little piece of junk for this whole bedroom that I'm giving up? And it was a sad day. Now listen, I'm not going to tell you all the stories. I'm actually writing a screenplay and a novel about old Pops. But I came to tell you this, I guess, that we need to be careful about crowning angels and condemning devils. You with me? Because in this scenario, my grandfather lived with us 2 years. And it was like the Archangel Michael, my father, right? And there was my grandfather, the devil, right? And I'm living right in between these two for, well, a little over 2 years. And the contrast couldn't be more. My father was a Polak. My grandfather was an Italian. My grandfather wore his hair like Barry Goldwater, you know, in a crew cut. My grandfather was all over with his broken teeth. My father was known as Dollar Bill. My grandfather was Big Bill. My father wouldn't give you a nickel. My grandfather was throwing 20s around like he was Rockefeller, you know? And Dad was careful, especially as the oldest son, to give me good warning, fair warning about my grandfather. I don't think he ever used the word devil, but he used every other word you could imagine to describe that old man and what I needed to do to stay clear of him and his ways, not to fall under the influence of him, I guess. But I came to tell you this. Be careful about crowning angels, and be especially careful about condemning devils. Because my father, as good a man as he was, and as much as I owe to him, he was one bad man, friends. And I'm not here to besmirch the memory of my dad. But my dad, he belittled people. He cursed. He would be driving down the road. A little kid jump out, and he would get out of the car and yell at that kid till his parents came out and he'd yell at him. He would belittle people. He would yell at people. And I'll tell you what, I don't know how anybody feels about hitting children, and I don't know if there are some children who need to be spanked every once in a while, but I can be certain that me and my brother and sisters were not one of them. We were good kids. And nevertheless, that man beat us hard. And I learned as I got older that my dad was no angel. One day, it actually was one of the first days he ever beat me with my grandfather in the house. I remember crying, just couldn't even catch my breath, you know, in the corner of the room, my little sister over there just being cute and general SOB that she was. And I remember sort of like just sniffling and just trying to calm down. And my grandfather came in, he picked me up, he carried me out to the driveway. Now he was a big spender and he had this Cadillac convertible that you never went near, but he opened up that car, he set me in the driver's seat. This was back in the day before automatic windows were something to be seen. Plush, carpeted, it was like an apartment itself, and he just let that convertible top go back, and he let me lay there. And I fell asleep in that car. The devil was an angel, my friends, and that angel, he was one devil of a man. Now, we live in a day when there are lots of devils out there. You know what I'm saying? They're on the TV every day, and they're robbing us blind. And it's a real temptation to come down on those people and judge those people without even knowing anything about them, you know? And then, if you're like me, a good cop's kid, you know, you set up a lot of angels, a lot of people up on those pedestals, whatever you want to call them, saints, and you got to be careful. Be careful about crowning angels and condemning devils. And I think more so today than ever, when we're so divided. It's always a pleasure to come talk to you because I always feel like I'm just talking to myself, which is very, very natural. But it is a blessing, and I don't take it for granted. I thank Tom and all you guys, and you with some bad SOBs back here. Friends, as we go from here, and I know this is the sentiment of Tom and the whole church family, let's just be careful, you know, how we size people up. You young people, you be real careful of those people that are angels and set themselves on pedestal. I'm not ashamed to say that to a young person. You be careful. And us old-timers, kind of set in our ways, let us too be careful. If the snow's still high and you want to come see something that's meant to join Democrats and Republicans and children and old people, you come down to Kenilworth Park District building on February 15th, and me and some of your parishioners will be putting on a show there, and we'll be up there at least once a month. But until then, or the next time I'm here, everybody say it. Pull my daisy.
Pull my daisy.
Tip my cup.
Tip my cup.
All my doors are open.
All my doors are open.
Did you hear me? All right, say it. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
I looking funny, man. Believe I'm fixing to die. Believe I'm fixing to die. Believe I'm fixing to die. Looking funny in my eye. Believe I'm fixing to die. I know I was born to die, but ain't see my children stand around crying. Just as sure as we live, no show is born to die. Show is born to die. Show is born to die. Just as sure as we live, show is born to die. I know I was born to die, but it's my children stand around crying. Mother, take my children back before they let me down. Before they let me down. Before they let me down. Mother, take my children back before they let me down. I don't need them standing crying on the burial ground. Look over yonder, boys, on the burial ground, on the burial ground, on the burial ground. Look over yonder, boys, on the burial ground. Yonder stand 10,000, looking while they let me down.
Hey, a benediction from Walt Whitman, who said, there is never any more heaven than there is now, never any more hell. Everybody say it. To the angels and the devils. To the angels and the devils. God bless them all. God bless them all. And the people said, Amen.
I'm a crosscut song. Just drag me across your lawn. I'm a crosscut song. Just drag me across your lawn. Cut you wood so easy for you. Can't help but say hot dog. Some people call me Bill, some people call me Sam. The last woman I cut wood for, she want me back again. I'm a crosscut song. Just drag me across your lawn. I cut you wood so easy for you. Can't help but say hot dog. Got a double-bladed axe that really cut good. I'm a crosscut saw. Just bear me in your wood. I'm a crosscut saw. Just drag me across your lawn. I cut you wood so easy for you. Can't help but say hot dog.